Hello everyone! Recap Motion is with you, and today we will talk about the movie Captain. This is the story of an exhausted soldier who deserts the army, finds an officer's uniform, and after trying it on, begins to abuse his power, creating his own squad and arranging brutal reprisals. The action of this black and white drama, based on real events, takes place in April 1945, shortly before the German surrender. The main character, Private Willie Harold, flees along a country road. He is being chased by a truck with cheerful German soldiers. An orchestra is playing in the back, and an officer, drinking schnapps straight from a bottle, shoots at the fugitive. Fortune smiles on Harold. When he reaches the forest, which is impassable for a truck, he hides from his pursuers like a hobbit hiding from the Nazgul. Later, at an abandoned train station, he finds a blanket and makes himself footcloths. There he also meets another deserter, exhausted but armed with a gun. After resting, they sneak into the farm at night. A man with a sign is hanging in a tree near her. Death for looting. The warning doesn't stop them. In the barn, Willie steals eggs directly from under the chickens, while his partner, with a stone in his hand, stands over the sleeping watchman. The noise made by the chickens wakes up the watchman. Willie orders his partner to kill him, but he runs away in horror. The guard screams and rushes at Harold, who pushes his head against a brick wall. Then he sees how the farmers, awakened by the noise, stab his accomplice with pitchforks. Unwilling to end his life on the gallows, the former private goes on the run again. He walks along the railway tracks past a small town. On the side of the road, Harold finds an abandoned car. In addition to a box of apples, there is a box with a Luftwaffe captain's uniform. He hurriedly changes into a uniform that fits him, except that the trousers are a little too big. Delighted with his luck, Willie plays out a small scene, pretending to be an officer, when another deserter, Private Freetalk, stumbles upon him. Mistaking the stranger for a real captain, he reports that he is strayed from his unit and asks to be commanded by Harold. First, he's ready to pull out a car stuck in the mud. The scammer easily accepts the rules of the game and begins to behave like a real commander. Moreover, he has little choice. When the private pulls out the car, they go to the city together. On the way, the newly minted captain discreetly gets rid of his old clothes so that the subordinate does not have any suspicions. It is already dark when they arrive at the inn. The locals are unfriendly to the military. The war is almost lost. The soldiers are deserting in droves, robbing the population. Harold skillfully uses the general discontent to his advantage. He begins to collect information about the losses suffered by local residents at the hands of deserters in order to obtain government compensation. This initiative is met with support, and they are even invited to dinner. However, Freitag, who is passionate about food, arouses suspicion from the owner, who sees them as runaway soldiers who are hungry on the road. Only Harold's endurance and acting skills help preserve their legend. At night, the locals check on them, bringing in a thief and demanding that Harold be punished. Without showing the slightest hesitation, he kills him in cold blood with a shot to the head. In the morning, they head to the farm where Willie was stealing eggs. 3 deserters seized power there, making decorations on the couch out of the corpses of their unsuccessful comrades, mocking the owners and looting supplies. Harold's commanding air and commanding tone allowed him to take control of the situation, and he recruits the robbers into his squad. One of them notices that the captain's pants are clearly out of size. Having made his conclusions, he prefers to keep it to himself. Having replenished the supplies, the detachment continues on its way. After encountering 2 soldiers pulling an anti-aircraft gun, they also join the group, having no choice. When the car runs out of gas, the soldiers have to carry the cannon on themselves, which over time increases mutual hostility. Soon they are overtaken by the military police in a convertible. The soldiers demand documents, ready to open fire in case of disobedience. Harold has to demonstrate his acting talent in order to convince the inspector of his higher powers, claiming that the Führer himself sent him to the rear to check the situation. First of all, may I ask who I have the honor to speak to? The military, misled by the deceiver, takes them to a camp designed to hold prisoners of war, deserters, and looters. They are joined by an officer who had previously shot at the fleeing Harold but did not recognize him in his new uniform.
They explain to the captain that in the current difficult situation for the country, the detention of prisoners is an unacceptable waste of resources. As a person specially authorized by the Führer, he is offered assistance in solving this problem, bypassing bureaucratic obstacles and judicial formalities. In particular, a military court is required to sentence prisoners. However, while Willie is thinking about this issue, his squad needs food and shelter. Shutak, the camp manager, introduces Harold to the prison barracks and introduces him to the essence of what is happening. During the interrogation, Willie's subordinate beats up one of the prisoners, simultaneously taking valuables from the others. Private Freetalk expresses disagreement with what is happening and appeals to the captain to stop this lawlessness. However, he replies that the fate of these people has already been decided. They won't live anyway. At this time, the manager is talking to the head of the judicial officials, Hansen, without whose approval a decision on the prisoners cannot be made. Hansen asks Shutak to give one of the prisoners a package from his daughter, who earned this opportunity through hard work. Shutak agrees, but after taking a few steps away, appropriates the contents of the package for himself. Harold informs Shutak about the start of military field tribunals, which essentially authorizes the execution of prisoners of war. Some have already been deprived of their lives, 2 have been shot, 3 have been beaten to death. This causes outrage among the justice officer, who reports to his superiors about the arbitrariness of Harold and Fuel. However, they find an excuse, claiming that the prisoners attacked the officer during interrogation. The situation is escalating, as the authorities may initiate a review of Harold's credentials and reveal his impostery. In an effort to speed up the completion of cases in the camp, Shutak appeals to the Gestapo to organize simplified military field courts under the leadership of Captain Harold, bypassing the Ministry of Justice. At the same time, Willie takes full responsibility for what is happening. Having received the go-ahead, Shutak notifies Hansen's superiors, who actually provide carte blanche to act without his participation. A justice officer receives a call from his superiors and then finds out that his colleagues are already actively solving the problem. The prisoners are digging a large hole at the edge of the forest. Pule leads a group of prisoners out of the barracks, about 30 people. Despite the terrible situation, they go singing a march, even when they are driven into a pit. Harold orders an anti-aircraft gun to be delivered. Prisoners are shot from it, turning their bodies into a bloody mess. After the first turn, there are survivors who try to escape, but the soldiers, having reloaded the gun, open fire on them. Willie is torn with horror, but maintains an appearance of calm. His lies could cost his life. When the anti-aircraft gun fails, the personnel finishes off the survivors with small arms. Only Freetalk refuses to participate in the execution. After a modest dinner with fried potatoes, the firing squad returns to their usual duties. Freetalk stands aside until it becomes obvious that the moanings of the wounded man are coming from the pit full of corpses. To complete what has been started, it is necessary to go down into the pit itself, and the captain orders his assistant to relieve the sufferer of his torment, which he reluctantly does. In one day, Harold and Shutak shot 90 prisoners. Hansen informs his superiors about this, but suddenly he hears screams outside the window. The survivors refuse to dig a hole. The officer forces the soldiers to do this task, and they have to obey. While covering the bodies with lime, they notice that some of the executed are still showing signs of life, but this will not last long.
In the mess hall, officers and soldiers celebrate a job well done, praising Captain Gerald. The guests are entertained by the performance of 2 artists from among the prisoners. Their repertoire is full of rude humor. They also sing the anthem of the Combat Brotherhood together with the officers. While the soldiers are having a banal fight, the officers are having a conversation with cultural workers. Willie wonders why the talented people were imprisoned, but they won't admit it. Then he invites them to play a game, imagining that they are all thieves. He himself, for example, stole an officer's uniform. Mistaking this confession for a joke, the guests learn that the actor stole from a dead friend. This enrages the fool, who is distracted by the raging soldiers. The fight spills out onto the street and becomes massive. However, having let off steam, the instigators reconcile and go to beat up the prisoners who refused to bury the grave earlier. The officers notice the beatings and order them to stop. But Gerald's subordinate does not obey. The captain has to improvise to save face in front of the camp manager. First, he shoots a pistol over the head of the offending soldier, stunning him. Then he lines up the beaten people in a row, ties them with a rope, and, taking out a pistol, orders them to run. As the prisoners escape, Willie shoots one in the back. The others are dragging a wounded comrade. Gerald hands the gun to one of the performers and orders them to do the same. The actor kills the second prisoner, and his colleague shoots himself in the head, not wanting to follow orders. The captain is waiting for the actor to raise his gun. One less fugitive. While Willie is reloading his pistol, the wounded man drags 3 bodies behind him at once. Schutzitz's wife takes his gun and starts shooting. Everyone present joins the shooting. A dozen bullets pierce the exhausted body, and only after that it falls into the mud. In the morning, Fry notices that the trousers that are sewn by Harold are too long, obviously not the right size. But he remains silent, realizing that in the current situation, any word can be deadly. Schutzit approaches the tent. A group dedicated to combing the area in search of deserters is ready to depart. The captain comes out to them in a tunic and underwear, but this does not prevent him from making an inspiring speech and sending everyone on their way. While there are no local residents, Harold's squad is staging a drunken rampage with bullying of prisoners. Schutzit, returning with the men, discovers an empty camp littered with corpses. Drunken soldiers of the captain fall out of the kitchen, and he himself can barely stand on his feet. Suddenly, the canteen explodes into the air, along with everyone who did not manage to get out. The British artillery methodically destroys the camp. To this is added the Allied air raid, which generously gives the Germans explosives. After the bombing, Harold staggers and picks up his cap and coat from the ground. He gives the order to the survivors to form up. It's time to leave this inhospitable place. Along with the deserting soldiers, several prisoners escaped. The captain orders them to find a military uniform. Teeter comments that the only thing left of the camp was the table at the barrier. Everything else turned into a plowed field. It shows the modern look of this place in color. The squad goes to the city in a car with the inscription, "Harold's Court is coming soon." In their scams, they resemble a gang of con artists. However, unlike the great combinator, the captain does not recognize any laws. Rushing through the streets, they stop at the city hall, where a white flag with the inscription, "Welcome" is hanging, welcoming the approaching allies. The soldiers immediately execute the mayor, who inadvertently left the building. After grabbing the provisions, Harold heads to the most luxurious house in the city. There, the deserters arrange a noisy party, which is interrupted by the appearance of a woman. One of the entourage brazenly steals the captain's favorite Fraulein. The reckoning is not long in coming. Before the couple had time to retire, Willie, who had dared to break the chain of command and the right of the first night, was dragged into the bathroom to cool his ardor, entered the vacant room, and took off his jacket. Soon he is on trial over a rebel who dared to question his alpha status. Accusing him of looting, betrayal, and other crimes common to the squad, the captain sentences him to death. In the courtyard, the soldier is stripped naked and ordered to run. He takes a few steps before a volley of rifles ends his life. Then Gerald and his team arrange an even crazier celebration, full of music, dancing, scantily clad women, and rivers of alcohol. After such an orgy in the morning, they lie exhausted wherever they go and in whatever positions. It is in this condition that they are discovered and detained by the military police. Willie, posing as the captain, tries to destroy his papers by eating them, but the police manage to seize some of them. The surviving fragments clearly indicate that he is just a private soldier. Despite numerous atrocities, the Herald is not being offered the death penalty at the trial, but the possibility of parole. He proved himself to be an intelligent man with a strong character, ingenuity, and the behavior of a real officer. Instead of being hanged, he is sent to the front, to which he enthusiastically agrees. However, he soon makes his escape, using a rope woven from sheets. The former captain makes his way through a forest full of remains, literally stepping on bones, before disappearing into the dense darkness of the forest.
The final caption tells about his future fate. On May 23, 1945, Willie Harold was arrested, and a year and a half later, on November 14, 1946, he and 6 of his accomplices were sentenced to death for war crimes. He was 21 years old.
Thanks for watching. Come to the channel, there are many more other movies. See you later.